Greetings, kindred spirits. Wasn't sure actually if I wasn't actually going to do a podcast due to the passing of my father a few days ago. But I woke up this morning and I just felt impelled to actually do it. I was actually going to do an article, and then I started typing the article, and I thought, you know what? It's just easier for me to say it. So, but I'd like to thank all of you that already know about my dad for all your kind words and your support. It has been a really emotional time for me and my family. But, funny enough, my dad was a Taurus sun, and he was actually a Sagittarius moon. So, very grounded person, but emotionally he was definitely a wanderer. And, the moon in Sagittarius, actually, they can be very kind of like stuck in their ways, It's really about what religion you was brought up in or what philosophy you was brought up in, It was really about environmental conditioning and what you would have taken on, with the moon in Sagittarius. It's like you'd stick to that. Depending on your sun sign though as well. And, I really do feel the moon is Sagittarius this month because of the aspects as well. It does show that there's this rigid mentality or very dominating mentality, because this is a very masculine energy, especially since our sun and moon will both be in conjunction to Pluto. So, it's going to be really intense. As psychic, for those of us that are psychic or highly spiritual, it's a good time for manifesting, manifesting positivity into the world, because throughout the rest of this month, that is going to be needed, because things are about to get really, really erratic. We're already seeing it beginning, we're seeing it evolving. And I think some of us can be a little bit optimistic or over-optimistic of the outcome, but, we've got to get to the outcome. And that's, again, we're still treading through mud, trying to reach the goal. Because the goalpost keeps changing, and, this has been going on all throughout 2020, and we're now in 2021, and rather than getting better, it seems that things are more intensifying. And with the moon in Sagittarius, there can tend to be a lot of arrogance around that energy, and the ego can kick in big time. So, with our sun and moon conjunct Pluto, it is very extreme, very drastic, very nuclear in energy as well, very explosive, or, just, I don't know, it's almost like things just being taken off the table, so to speak, and definitely drastic changes. So, our moon and sun will be in trine to Vesta, and that's all about self-empowerment and, healthy self-esteem. So I really do feel that we should really not get caught up in the hype. Watch it, process it, but don't draw any conclusions this new moon. And I know the moon happened early hours this morning, but all moon cycles, the conjunction of the moon and sun, or the opposition of the moon and sun, which is the new moon and the full moon, they do set the pace for the next 2 weeks. So this new moon will be setting the pace for the next 2 weeks. There's a lot to cover as well, So Mercury at the new moon, this new moon, is actually in conjunction to Jupiter. And this can broaden the mind, actually. This can broaden the mind and We can take up interests in different philosophies to what we're used to. I mean, it's there, it's available, and some may take that opportunity while others may stick to what they already know. Maybe due to loyalty towards their parents, or loyalty towards their religion, or loyalty towards their own belief structures, where they're not willing to budge. But I do have a feeling with Pluto conjunct the Sun and Moon, it might actually be a change of heart there, a change of mind, where an interest will develop. Hold on a moment. I know, I've always been stuck in my ways when it comes to this, that and the other. But I do feel that, with the events that are happening, there can be people that, actually think, hold on a moment. Everything I thought or everything I believed in, it doesn't really feel like it's going that way, or it is actually that way. So that is the kind of energy I'm getting from these conjunctions of the Sun, Moon and Pluto. So with the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, this broadening of the mind, and, in Capricorn as well, it can show integrity, and, but it can also be about idealization, because we have Venus and Mars still in trine. So, there can be a balancing out of like our own needs, our own personal needs with, what we want for our future, and, what we want for the future of our children. Because like, in this case, we really can't sit here and just think about ourselves. We've got to think about the future. Right now, things are kind of like, okay, certain people being supported at the moment, especially financially. But what about long term? And this is what we got to think about, what is going to play out long term. Venus will also be in trine to Uranus. So we've got a few surprises coming, and, not just collectively. I mean, this can also be with like relationships as well. Like, people can show up out the blue. But, it can be fleeting. It's not there's no deepness there. There's nothing substantial there, I don't feel. It's a nice surprise, but is it just a passing hello, or is it, let's talk about this, let's get to the bottom of it and make amends. I think, it can be a time really of wrapping up and ending cycles, especially within relationships. If we're holding on to someone of the past, maybe this is a final coming together to let each other go with love. And maybe that those meetings will make us, face our own part in the situation, or face up to the other person's point of view. So in that respect, it can be really good. Not just relationships with like intimate relationships, it can also be friendships or old business partnerships. It's a rounding up, because with Pluto conjunct the Sun and Moon, I really do feel that, we are definitely ending a cycle at this time. This is where I can truly say that stepping forward, it's not going to be the same again, no matter what way things turn out, with the current events that are going on. Either way, things will never be the same again. But, we the people, I still believe that we have to stand up for our rights. Like I noticed, I saw a video today actually, and I did speak about this, I think, at my solar eclipse video that I did in December, I think around about the 15th of December. No, the 14th, wasn't it? We had the solar eclipse. And I did say that the governments would have to acknowledge mental health. So I watched a video this morning and, it was our health secretary speaking about the mental health of our nurses. And, absolutely, our nurses are under extreme pressure. And I don't think it's because of the current situation. I think it's because our hospitals are underfunded and undermanned, really. And I think that is the problem, and it has been for years. So, but there was no mention of the people, of the people that have lost people throughout this time, of people that have been in isolation and have suffered, with extreme kind of alienation. There's been a lot of suffering, people losing their business. I mean, that should all come under mental health, not just, our institutions, which, must be taken into account as well. And we also have to understand that our nurses and doctors, they also have family and a personal life too, So, I just wanted to add that in. So Uranus actually will go direct, on the 14th. So that's tomorrow. I'm looking because I've lost my track of days lately. So it's the 13th today. The new moon took place early hours this morning here in England, where I am based. So as Uranus goes direct tomorrow in the sign of Aries, this is where the chaos really starts, because when Uranus was in retrograde in Aries, there was kind of like the brakes on, so to speak. The brakes were on, and Uranus was kind of going backwards over old ground. But now Uranus is about to venture forward. And, this is where things start really getting fast-paced again. And, this is where the 5 energy really does start to kick in. And the only problem when Uranus direct and in square to Mercury as well is that, we can be hard of hearing under this energy, or we can jump to conclusions. There can be impractical thinking, over eccentricity. There can be a lack of tact. So I would just say that, we must be really careful and work on grounding techniques if we're feeling a little bit erratic, or, the nervous energy is going to just spark off, and many of us will feel a little bit kind of erratic. So, Uranus will also be in square to our moon, so emotionally and mentally there can be a lot of upheaval, because things may be said out of the blue, or people are not listening. They don't want to listen to advice. They just, feel they know better. And also in square to Jupiter as well. So our Uranus will actually be in square to Mercury, our moon, and Jupiter. So that is a big energy, emotionally, mentally, and, idealistically. So, when Uranus is in square to Jupiter, I always say watch out for false prophets, and, don't bank on anything, because there can be a sudden turn of events, that's the time really people can let us down. There can be an element of unreliability with this energy due to unforeseen circumstances. So, it looks like the tides are really turning with these squares. But, what is good with Uranus going direct is, he will be in trine to Venus. And Mars will be in trine to Venus as well. The trine with Mars and Venus is ongoing for a while. So this is fantastic for performing arts. It's also good for media, especially over the internet. And, we can really uplift the spirit. So I really do feel like all the light workers out there, or the musicians, or the poets, put your stuff out as much as you can, to uplift people, because I feel the media is going to be manic. I feel certain crowds of people will be quite manic. And I just feel we're going to need some calm in the storm. So on the 15th of January, Mercury will enter into pre-shadow at 11 degrees. And it'll be about 2:30 in the morning in the GMT time zone. But the actual retrograde itself won't start until the 30th of January. But like I always say, the pre-shadow can be just as potent as the retrograde itself. So Mercury will retrograde in Capricorn. On the 30th of January, Mercury will be at 26 degrees. But in the pre-shadow, as we enter into the pre-shadow, he will be conjunct Pallas, conjunct Jupiter, trine the North Node, so square Mars and Uranus. So this is really where we can get into some deep thinking. This is where we can really reflect and get a better perspective on things, because the Capricorn energy is very slow, it's very organised. It can be very, very helpful if we are in isolation. To Mercury in conjunction to Pallas, to me, will show us the bigger picture. It does open up the mind, especially since Jupiter is conjunct as well. So the media is going to be really busy, and I do feel there's going to be a lot of talking, especially when it comes to sociology and politics, But we have to kind of process that information for ourselves and, really take it on board. I don't feel this is a time to act, on the 15th. I just feel, because there is going to be a lot of arguments or lack of tact still out there with Mercury still in square to Mars. So there is still going to be a little bit going on out there. So I do feel a lot of us can gain some insight throughout this Mercury retrograde, or definitely as it starts. And, some people may come up with out their ideas while others will sit down and go, are you for real? So as Uranus turns direct on the 14th and Mercury enters into pre-shadow on the 15th, the Sun will enter into Capricorn on the 19th, and the Sun will still be in conjunction to Pluto, who will still be in Sagittarius. But the Sun will also come into conjunction with Saturn, who's in his own sign of Capricorn. And this can be very, very inhibited. And I just feel that there's going to be a lot of depression or a lot of sadness at this time. I feel, there's going to be further restrictions that come into effect that's going to create a lot of frustration. And I know the media's coming down. I am on certain podcasts and stuff. I know it's a bit chaotic out there right now, but I really do feel that there's going to be a lot of people stirring up stuff as well. And the only way we can really get our heads around this is to actually watch and really look and really listen to everything, to all sides. Because, we know we're coming up to Inauguration Day. in the US, and even though I'm in England, it still affects us, you know. This is a world event going on right now, and we are in some really crazy times. But, you know, it's going to get a bit chaotic when the sun enters into Capricorn. By the time the sun enters into Capricorn, the Black Moon Lilith will be in conjunction to Mars and Uranus in Aries, and, you know, this is the day before we have the exact conjunction with Uranus and Mars, with the Black Moon conjunct then as well. So, in all, it's going to be chaos. You know, Mars will also be in square to Jupiter, and that is one of the most destructive aspects when it comes to collective power. You know, this aspect actually creates a lot of problems socially and politically, you know, where issues will arise. It's a very hypocritical aspect, where a lot of whitewashing will be covering up real motives, and even religion can be used hypocritically. So there's going to be a lot of upheaval in domestic situations, with regards to commitments or traditions. Families, it's going to affect families, and you know, it's going to be quite harsh and severe, especially with Mars also in square to Saturn. So there's just so much negativity, so much upheaval, so much chaos that's going to be going on around us. And I say around us because we don't necessarily need to be a part of it, but we can watch and we can see the truth. And I really do feel a lot of truth is going to come out, but it's going to be covered up as well. And the problem with that is it creates a state of confusion. And I think that's what we've been in now for coming up to a year. So the only way we can find our own truth, our own self-truth of what we actually believe is the truth, is by really reflecting and listening and hearing. And, you know, the conjunction between Mars and Uranus that does become exact on the 20th. It's just really going to be about the consequences of the build-up. So I would say between the 15th and the 20th is when things start to get hot. And yeah, I mean, Uranus will be in square to Saturn on that day, and Saturn's in his own sign and Uranus is in Aries, so they're both in their strength. And what more can I say, really? We just got to watch this play out, and I would just say be very careful, keep the faith, keep creative, and stay in peace. I'm going to go out and feed my birds. So sending you all peace and much love.